Okay, today we've got a very poignant leaders meeting for the staff. And the title of today's lesson is Demanding Excellence in Leadership. We're going to be taking a look at Daniel and his friends, but the main theme of this is demanding excellence in leadership. To have amazing churches, you need amazing leadership. Christ-centered leadership. Mark 7:37 says, people were overwhelmed with amazement. He, that being Jesus, has done everything well, they said. He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak. You need to find those who deeply desire in mind, in heart, in action, to glorify God with their lives by laying them down to become amazing, world-changing leaders like Jesus. That is what this group is all about. Men and women consumed with godly ambition to do everything well. Nothing less will see the world evangelized in our generation. Selfish ambition does not lead to self-discipline and spiritual growth. Only godly ambition does. Passion to please and serve God rather than self. You know, it's very easy to come into the church and be excited to be saved, which in one way is a very selfish thing, isn't it? You're like, it's something God does for you. And then you come in the church, you get loved, and you're like, this is awesome. Everybody's doing something for me. But at some point, you've got to go, okay, thank you, God. Thank you, people. Now, what am I going to do for God? The key to raising up leaders is to be ruthlessly demanding of yourself. So you can be demanding of others with a clear conscience and inspire others through your excellent personal example to excel in all things. People follow and imitate you rather than what you say. That's why we say, hey, if this brother was here, he would do this. If his brother was here, he would do that. Rarely do we say they would say this or say that. It's more like if this brother was here, man, he'd stay on campus much longer. Or if this brother was here, you know, he'd be up down the beach praying early in the morning. People quote what you do. You know, in a moment they may, at staff, Joe said this. But in reality, long term, they imitate what you do. Yeah. You know, if you are not passionate about education, your people will be shown to fail their exams at university and ICCM. That is a reflection of you as a leader. If you allow yourself to be unhappy and ineffective personally, you will create an unhappy and ineffective ministry. If you are not consumed with growing the kingdom, embracing hard work in evangelism, studying the Bible with people, seeking out problems and resolving them, which is discipling, you will have an unevangelistic, self-focused and problem-filled ministry. That all they do is talk about problems. If you do not become excellent with finances, nor will your leaders or your ministry. Jesus mastered all of these areas and called those around him to his standard of leadership, of laying down his life for others. So much so that it divided people into followers and haters. Which one are you? John 10:17, the reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life, only to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again. This command I received from my Father. The Jews who heard these words were again divided. Many of them said, he is demon-possessed and raving mad. Why listen to him? But others said, these are not the sayings of a man possessed by a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? You know, those people that don't want excellent leadership, they actually quote excellent leaders and they go, you won't believe what he did. You won't believe what he demands or she demands of her people. You know, he's gone mad. He lays his life. He expects so much of himself and so much of his people. He's raving mad. Yeah. And then there are other people who go, well, look at the results. This is the results of somebody that's spiritual. I look at your results and I go, that doesn't glorify God. And they're torn. They're like, I see the results, but I don't want to do what it takes. But on the other hand, I see the lack of results in these other people, and I definitely don't want that. Jesus divided people's hearts. If you are an excellent leader, you will divide people's hearts. You will be hated, and you will be followed. Wow. Those who do not raise up leaders fail because they feel more comfortable in non-confrontational relationships than in constant confrontational ones. Because they don't like to be challenged, exposed, or pushed to excellence, they actually don't want others to experience that emotion. They're like, I don't like that emotion, and I don't really want somebody else to feel that emotion because I feel so unhappy in that state. They are more worried about people's happiness than holiness, their feelings rather than their character development, their present instead of their future. This is selfish, slack leadership. Unbiblical, not Christ-like, and destructive. Proverbs 18:9. One who is slack in his work is brother to one who destroys. You know, it seems all too much for some, as it takes so much love and pouring out of your own life to challenge people at this level. Because to challenge people at this level means that you need to love them at a Jesus level. Deep friendship. Proverbs 27:6 says, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. You know, some people walk around and go, man, I whacked that brother. Well, great. Did he change? No, you know why? He didn't feel loved by you. He thought that was a rebuke from an enemy. Not a rebuke from a friend. Because you know when somebody challenges you, you go, I know they're not doing it because they don't love me. But if they feel like you're doing it and it's to some agenda, some glory, like even like we're going through raising people's contribution. People feel like we're doing it for the church. Why would they raise their money? If you're doing it to build their lives, to give them a better future so that they can have savings, so that they can go on holidays, so that they can give, you know, generously but not crushingly so. They're like, I'll do it. Yeah, what do I do? How do I do my resume? How do I do all of that? Yeah. You know, I think about Dante. Come on, Dante was struggling over in Auckland, so we talked about bringing him here. I've had him for 4 months. To say when he came here, he was in need of some encouragement and help, shall we say. Shall we say his first sermon was forgettable. Let's be kind about it. However, we really had to get in there. We had to deal with his heart. And poor Maddie's like been there by his side, and he just got good in the last couple of weeks and then he's going. And sometimes that's your role as the sport. But to really get in there and really get in his heart, talk about dealing with his family, talking about who he really is, the patterns of his sin, and really just bring out his heart, challenging it, cutting a little bit off of it if it was oxidized with sin, dealing with his family going back. And he preached a phenomenal sermon when he came. And the thing I love about it when you train somebody, I got somebody that was quite possibly a bit scared of me, fearful of the whole Islander pastor thing. He left a friend. Yeah. And my favorite memory is him in our last D time, where it was with another brother, and he was giggling because he wasn't getting any of the challenges, and the other brother was getting it all. And he was sitting there like, yeah, I remember that. But it was much more like, that's not me anymore. I'm off on the holy train. You know what I mean? But you see, it doesn't take a lot to change somebody, time-wise. It just takes a lot of personal investment, emotionally, spiritually, and really caring for them and their future. You know, you have to get in. I'm proud of our shepherds. Yeah. You know, I think so many of our people want to do such great things, and yet they don't know how. Len talked about how he got with Wayne. And he just did his budget. And Wayne was like, I'm so amazed. No one has ever done a budget with me. He really wanted to give more. He just go, don't even know how to do a budget. And sometimes we forget our people don't know what to do. Yeah. Did his budget, went to his boss, doubled his contribution, did all this. But it's because Len got in there and really helped this guy build his life. He was keen to do it. Yeah. He just wasn't equipped. So if we stand opposite somebody and go, sort your life out. Well, if they could, they already would have. Right. All right? It's like they got baptized and said, teach me how. We can't be frustrated, but we must be demanding. You know, this is a hard pill for most to swallow. To live a life where you always feel uncomfortable in relationships because they are of a spiritual nature, which means being in a constant state of sharpening. Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens the other. The only reason why you stop being sharpened is if you don't have other relationships with sharp people. True. That's called falling away. And you can fall away inside the church. Yeah. Absolutely you can. You know, this is a state you will be in for your life if you are to be an excellent leader who will produce well-built, constantly growing and maturing ministry. Excellent leaders embrace this rather than avoid it. I ain't saying it's easy. It's not easy at my age to sit down and go, okay, how did I sin against you? Young brother, you know, going there, Matthew 5, getting with him, go, how can I become better leader? You know, at my age, I'm like, surely I should be able to, I should do that with my young prophets. And we went through, you know, different sins in the Bible and 2 Timothy, and we went round and I said, you know, okay, everybody, young prophet, what do you think in the sin list of 2 Timothy, you know, 3, that possibly you need to change the most? And they all shared, you know, I need to do this and this. And I didn't share for myself. I said, honey, Kerry, which one of these do I need to work on? She said, well, you love people, but they don't feel loved by you sometimes. So you need to work on being more loving. I'm like, for goodness sake, 34 years and I still need to work on my love. I mean, come on. She was right, of course. I didn't say that. All right. But I felt that. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm like, for goodness sake, just give me a break. I've just been really humble yesterday. Not today. You know, like. But it's asking those questions. You know, the only thing holding you back from being an excellent leader is your inability to embrace the emotional, spiritual, and physical work that you know you need to without credit or immediate reward for a long enough period of time to see things achieved. In other words, improvement is your lifestyle. Come on. Wow. Our leadership must be so much better than the world's. Better than Satan's. And sadly, Satan has better leaders than we do in the kingdom. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Who are his leaders? Just look at the politicians. See how much power they wield. Look at the pop stars. I mean, Satan has some excellent leaders. But we must have better leaders. So let's pick up in Daniel chapter 1 and learn from him and his friends. Go on, Joe. Verse 18. At the end of the time set by the king to bring them into his service, the chief official presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and he found none equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's service. In every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in his whole kingdom. You know, there are many examples in the Bible of choosing excellent leadership. Here we see an opportunity for God's people, God's young leaders, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, to shine. You know, one of the problems of having only been in real leadership in the kingdom, coming into the ministry with little to no world experience, like you're in your early 20s or mid-20s, is that you've never really experienced what real high standards of leadership are in professional sports or business. And that's a real problem. See, you've not seen excellent demanding leadership or top discipline of top leaderships in practice. You know, when I went into business, you see the managing director, he might arrive at work at 5 a.m. He's got a wife and 3 kids. He might not leave till 10 p.m. You go, if I was demanded to do that, to get up at 3 a.m., have a quiet time, be into the ministry at 5 a.m. and not go home to 10 p.m., that's unreasonable. That's unloving. That's un-Christ-like. And yet people at work go, that's no problem. That's no problem. Sports people. You watch anything like, you know, The Rock or whatever. I get up at 3 a.m., I do this. We go, and, you know, we get shocked. Somebody gets up at 5 o'clock and we go, man, they're just too committed. You have low standards. Take challenges personally rather than professionally. Always expecting someone else to rescue you. In business, if you fail, you get fired because there are 100 people that want that salary.
Yeah, that's true.
In the kingdom, we fail, we go, oh, well, I deserve my wage. It's not much anyway. And there's no real competition. You know why? Because you compare yourself to other people in the church and you don't compare yourself to the leadership in Satan's kingdom. You're comparing yourself to the wrong person. You either need to compare yourself to Jesus or to Satan's kingdom. You know, when you're in a sport, you compare your team to the best team in the league. That's who you compare it to. You know, in business, you go, who is the best company in our sphere? And we go, that's who we need to beat. When you're trying to beat your Christian or your Bible talk leader, your standards are going to remain low for the rest of your life.
Come on.
You compare them to another church. You compare them to another part of the world ministry. Why are you comparing to them? You're comparing them to the wrong person.
Right.
You know, all of these things, taking challenges personally, low standards, expecting someone to rescue, these are things not accepted in the professional world. They're not even talked about. No one would dare talk to them. No one will go to boss on 120,000 and go, boss, can you help me out? Doesn't happen. Your boss goes, figure it out.
Yeah.
That's the situation Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego found themselves in. One way to substitute this experience is by reading top leadership books. You know, it's your responsibility to personally develop yourself. No, it's not mine. No one is telling me to do it. If you want to be an excellent leader, you have to search it out. And if you don't have the experience, it is so out there for you to get. But do you get it? Many are good-hearted leaders, but lack the initial skill or aptitude needed to lead well. And they remain that way because they lack the godly ambition to gain the skills. They want growth in the ministry without having to grow personally in their character. Many reach a level and never go past it due to a mixture of a lack of heart and skill. There are many levels at which an evangelist in women's ministry may max out. The only challenge is when other people surpass them, often they get bitter and fall away. You can be a sector leader in a church, and that's as much as you can do. A small church leader, moving from one group of 20 to the next to the next. You can max out with a certain number of disciples. I can only lead 20 people or 30 people. That's as much as I can do. Only lead one church instead of many churches. Not all can succeed in all cultures, in all countries, in all cities, in all types of ministries. Teens, singles, AMS, students, marrieds. Yet excellent leaders master them all.
Yeah. Come on.
Excellent leaders master them all. Some are taken out by bad marriages, indiscipline, exposed by parenting, pressure, illness, undealt with sins, because when the going gets tough, they're not tough enough to get going. You know, the excellent question being asked of Kerry and I today, and it was asked at the ICLS, is what will our ministry look like in 10 years when left to the next world sector leader? Will we have raised up a couple spiritually capable to take over the ministry going forward? Will there be shepherds in place that can disciple that couple and who want to be led by that couple? Will the other 8 or so couples we disciple be skilled and spiritual enough to lead a country, oversee churches of thousands effectively? Many of you in this meeting don't even want that level of responsibility, let alone have the heart to become what you need to for God's kingdom to succeed in your generation. You're just focused on getting dating by the end of this year and staying in the ministry. That is not godly ambition. That's survival that will lead to bitterness. This is what Kerry and I must decide through prayer, fasting, and advice when choosing who to hire and disciple in the next month, year, and decade. Yeah. What's the challenge? We need to review every staff member. We need to review every young prophet in our world sector to be sure we have the right people. You don't bring somebody into being a young prophet if they're failing exams. We had a young prophet recently failed his exams. He's out. He's out of staff. He's out. Why? How can you give somebody extra responsibility for 3 hours on a Saturday morning when they're failing their exams? Yeah. That's not who you choose. And it's also not loving to take time away from them that they should be spending on passing their exams.
That's true.
You know, if we don't do this, if somebody we feel like they're not there yet, we have to decide if they can get there. What needs to be done to get them there? Expectations, deadlines, reviews, and use of probations. It is awesome to see Berwick absolutely blowing smoke.
Come on, Barry.
Part of that process was being put on probation. Part of that process. But discipline always works. Should I say, well, Jack sat outside this very room crying, saying, Joe, please take me away from ICCM. I can't do it, bro. What did I say to him? You really think I'm going to say yes? You really think you're going to, doesn't matter your tears, you really think that's going to work? I think, no, we'll get and do it. Now he's getting top marks. Same with Juju. You see, you must demand excellence of people.
Come on.
When you compromise the effectiveness of a church. If I said, they're there, it's okay, let's just hug Berwick. Let's just take Jack out of ICM. Would Fiji be what Fiji is today? No, it wouldn't. There is the fruit of their repentance and Kerry's and my decisions.
Come on. Come on.
You know, you need to set plans to source more excellent leaders. The truth of it is, in Sydney right now, there is a lack of good women coming through. Some of that is we've sent out a lot. Some of my interns aren't firing. But you need to do something about it. So I was very inspired by Megan having 21 personal visitors. All right, at the Women's Day. I'm like, I'm learning from her.
Come on, Megan.
I go, what's that? So I get advice off my daughter about what event she goes to. I talked to Megan about it. We came up with, okay, we're going to have like these mini Women's Days every 4 weeks, every 6 weeks. We're going to have international speakers. And we've got our first one. So I snagged this young girl, Issa, from Manila. She is a professional dancer. She went to Princeton University. Her father's in major business. She played soccer. She even played touch rugby for the Philippines in Australia. She is a top ballet dancer, etc. And why? So we're creating these meetings just with some of the high-powered people in our ministry, not everybody. And we're hiring a place. She's coming to speak. And we want those sort of high-caliber people to come. Because it's not happening with the staff I have. So I'm going to get in there and I try to give it to the staff. They didn't really grab it. So I went, I will grab it. I will make it happen. You will do that. There are tiers here. And, you know, I need the invite by Saturday, Sunday. Get round my house until you've done it. Forceful leadership.
Come on.
And when it's all successful and running, everybody go, oh, wasn't this wonderful? Amen. You need to figure out how to make it happen.
Come on. True.
Point 1. And there's only 2 points.
Come on, Joe.
Come on, Joe.
Choose who you train wisely. Choose who you train wisely. Daniel 1:3. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, even Ashpenaz. Okay, there you go. I still need to work on a few things. All right. Chief of his court officials, to bring into the king's service some of the Israelites from the royal family and nobility. Young men without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well-informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. He was able to teach them the language and the literature of the Babylonians. The king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table, for they were to be trained for 3 years, and after that, they were to enter the king's service. So who should you look for? Well, let's go through the qualifications. Physical attributes to look for. Young. Young. Like Jesus with the apostles, the king was looking for young talent to train up for 3 years. While much character training would have been done with these men already, they were from a royal family, they were still young enough to be molded. So Dante, we found him, and he was already done a medical degree and got 92% average. So there was already some development done there. But he was also young enough to be developed. So I put him in the ministry after 3 months. Because he was, a royal sort of stature from his own island. Like, he was of that caliber. And you grab him. Youth brings time. Time to train. Consider the impact of a 25-year-old in leadership who has been trained since he is 18. Compared to a year-old Christian who is leading at 25. There is a mass difference between Jenna and Megan and Ash, Kingdom Kids, than anybody else. Mass difference. Without physical issues, leadership is strenuous and puts a lot of pressure and demands on people. It demands a different level of denial, one that breaks a weaker person. If somebody is prone to bad health and illness, they can't be in the ministry. All right? It leaves you unable to meet their people's needs. And there can be no sentimentality regarding choosing only the physical strong. I remember I wanted to date this sister in the old movement. And she was from a Caribbean background. And she had sickle cell anemia. Is that how you pronounce it? So basically where your cells go. And when the pressure came on in leadership, she just gets sick. And we really felt for her, and she was a wonderful, but every time the ministry got ready, she'd fall sick. And then like at those peak times, she'd miss out on studying and converting people, helping the weak, etc. like that. It was just wrong to put her in the ministry. And I had to make a decision. I don't want to date this sister. As a heart, great. But if I want to go on and do great things, I can't date her. And I had to date according to my ambition. Wow. Compare that to Kerry. Kerry physically is a force of nature. Okay. I do not have to worry about whether she will wimp out with jet lag, or if she gets ill, she can't do this or can't do that. She's up earlier than I am most mornings, 5 a.m., do this, stay up late, etc. I've been able to lead with her powerfully because she is physically strong. That is not her only attribute, but it is a major attribute. Handsome. Good looking. Now, before some of you get discouraged, while not everybody has top model looks, including Jesus, Isaiah 53:2, he had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. Everyone can present well. How you take care of yourself so often reflects how you feel about yourself. And this goes for where you live too. Some of you look terrible. Your clothes are terrible. Some of them smell. Your shoes are bad. You got holes in them. Your hair gets terrible. You don't shave. And I'm not interested. And you go, I don't know why I'm not being fruitful. I do. I do. I go into your house, I'm like, I do. Absolutely. I'm not interested. I love the Italian culture. When you go to Italy, it's not like every Italian man is drop dead gorgeous, but they all really look good. Like you go to Melbourne and come out the airport, and nearly every taxi driver is either 5'2" and Greek or 5'2" and Italian. But they all have Hugo Boss suits, and they may even have a bit of a belly or whatever, but they just look fantastic. We even go to Happy Field here, and there's a Italian community, and they're great. You have all these old men, they're all old mates, and they play cards and dominoes with each other. But they've got a stylish, cagoule hat, and I'm like, these are really good-looking men, not from a visual point of view in their face or their muscles, but actually how they look. They have class. You need a dress shirt I don't want to see people, you go, well, it's my sloppy Joes. We don't have sloppy Joes. You are exposed to the world every day of your life. Did you ever see a picture of Obama in sloppy Joes? Never. Never. Why? Because he was an excellent leader. He was an excellent leader. You look at some of the politicians, they're not Mr. Handsome, but you know what? They spend millions on how they look, so that people won't, at the end of their speech, go, he looked bad. It definitely affects how other people see you. And considering at the beginning stages of most conversions, we are attracting the worldly to make them spiritual, this is a significant issue. As many people are not willing to entrust their salvation to those they deem can't even look after themselves. I can tell you, some of the sisters like, I know he's got a good heart, but I'm not that interested. I'm not that interested. You know, we made a bit of fun of Dante and his, what is it, orange, bubbly, pink suit, whatever it is. Anyway, and Simon had it on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
And I went up to Dante and I said, your false doctrine is spreading to some other people in the church. He said, what do you mean? Really concerned? What is that? I said, Simon's got your suit on. Now, here's the funny thing. Dante looked like he was bouncing out of it and he didn't look good in it. But actually, Simon looked good in it. So what's the issue? Style. Style. Was it the suit? Sometimes it's not even the clothes. It's the clothes on you. Character attributes to look for. Showing aptitude for every kind of learning. Someone who really loves to learn, grow, excel, a top student. How can you be an excellent student or disciple to Jesus who exams are extreme if you can't pass the exams of the world? The exams I've had to pass in the kingdom, and I'm not talking about ICCM, are far harder than the ones I did at school. Someone who loves to constantly educate and grow in self-development. These men and women, these men, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, would have had to learn all these instructions in the Babylonian school in a foreign language and still excel. So all of you Chinese out there who go, well, I can't speak English, and toughen up, you're in Sydney. For those of you that are sent to a foreign mission, feel like, I've got to learn Chinese, and toughen up. It's another opportunity to excel.
Yeah.
ICCM is a basic start, not an end. If you fail ICCM, ministry is not for you. Believe me, ICCM is not hard.
Yeah.
If you think it's hard, then you're not set for excellent leadership. Len and Kira did it while running companies and kids.
Yeah.
A leader of thousands needs to be well educated in spiritual things and things of the world. In 1 Chronicles 12:32 it says, from Issachar, men who understood the times and knew what Israel should do. You've got to be well aware of what to do at what time. So as we talk about growing the church and having a flow of the church, that's knowing what to do and at what time. It's not just book smarts. You know, it's easier to convert 1,000 people than to convert a leader of 1,000 people. In actual fact, by the time the leader gets to 1,000 people in his church, he has converted maybe 8,000 people.
Wow, come on.
That's why when you put an experienced leader in a small church, it grows quickly. They need to be well informed, self-taught. I think some of us are waiting for our disciples to tell us what to do.
Right, come on.
Remember, you are discipled by whoever you phone.
That's right.
Someone who spends their spare time keeping up with trends of the world, not scrolling. Someone who wants to know about all cultures, topics, histories, etc., to save as many as possible. 1 Corinthians 9:19, though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone, to win as many as possible. To the Jew I became like a Jew to win the Jews. Though those under the law, I became like one under the law. Though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those who are under the law. To those not having the law, I became like one not having the law. Though I am not free from God's law, but am under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak I became weak, to win the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. So in Fiji, we need to convert Fijians, Indians, and the international. In Samoa, we need to convert Samoans, the Tongans, the Chinese, the 8 Africans that are there, or 9 Africans that are there, all people. You cannot be a one-trick pony. If you are not an excellent leader. You are a leader, but you're not an excellent leader.
Come on.
It takes being consumed with excellence. No time to be consumed with self. Some of you this year have been so consumed with yourself, you've not grown personally. And then your ministries haven't grown. It's not surprising. Then you go, well, now I'm upset and I'm depressed. My ministry hasn't grown. You're a self-prophesying creature. Quick to understand. Only need to be taught once rather than again and again and again. It was said of Samuel that his words never touched the ground. I remember being under John Cossey in 1994. He used to quote that all the time. Bro, if I have to tell you something twice, I don't want to teach you.
Wow, come on. True.
I won't give you 2 chances. If I tell you to do it once and I have to go, did you do it? You said no, that's it. I'm not going to disciple you.
Yeah. It's true.
He said, I don't have time for people like you, if that's who you're going to be.
Wow.
He said, I give instruction, I expect done. You know where else you find that attitude? In the world.
Yeah.
That's where you find it, in the world, in Satan's kingdom. Can you imagine a demon disobeying Satan? Can you imagine that conversation? Not a pleasant one. Why do demons have higher standards than the spiritual? Someone who changes quickly, deals with character change quickly. We call this a soft heart, but really it's just a repentant heart. Raoul doesn't have time to deeply explain and everything. He goes, bro, you need more loving in this area. It's up to me to figure it out. It's up to me to take it to you in the church to say, help me do this.
Yep.
In other words, you must be consumed with changing your character for the glory of God.
Amen.
When people do not change quickly, you've either picked the wrong person to train, or they have simply a lack of desire to be righteous in the eyes of God and a stubborn desire to remain spiritually immature for some reason. Both are alarming. Hebrews 5:12 talks about this. In fact, by this time you ought to be teachers. You need someone to teach you the elementary truths of God's word all over again. You need milk, not solid food. Anyone who lives on milk, still being an infant, is not acquainted with the teaching about righteousness. But solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil. So who's the responsibility on here? It's you. What's the problem? Righteousness. Being loving, being kind, just righteousness. And then you haven't trained yourself. You haven't trained yourself like, is this good? Is this bad? So I had a conversation with Brandon. I didn't start too well. That was my fault. I had to apologize to him and said, what can I have done better? And we resolved it, talked about this in a good outcome. And I'm like, doesn't matter how old you are, you've got to be taught by the people around you. Yeah. When he said, that didn't start the conversation too well, I went, okay, he's telling me it didn't start too well. So obviously I didn't do something right here. Some of us would just blaze through that. Yeah. Qualified to serve. They must love hard work, not pleasure. Really love it. This generation is addicted to pleasure. Addicted to it. Absolutely. And it's no longer video games. It was really obvious because you had to plug yourself into the TV, and when the brothers came home, they go, what are you doing on the computer? You don't need to do that. You just have your phone and sit on a bus and go round and round and round Sydney if you want. And just get into pleasure. They must be diligent with all tasks, from the smallest to the greatest. Proverbs 12:24. Diligent hands with rule, but laziness ends up in forced labor. What does that do if you're in the ministry? It means you're going to be put under somebody else that loves to work hard and is going to push you for the rest of your life. Who enjoys that? Who enjoys being kicked every day? So if you can't work harder than everybody else underneath you, you'll be kicked. Verbally, physically, whatever it is. Let's talk about where each of you are at, as shown in the results this year. ICCM, your masters, normal bachelors, your conversions, converting and raising up leaders. I make the ministry really simple for people. We spoke to the elders last night. Hey, you convert 3 future ministry women and 3 future ministry men every year, your church will crank. Morby, future ministry person. They're the only one I know. Maybe Varley, young, sort of 17. He might get it. He may be the guy that converted at 17 at 25. You go, wow, who was he? Yeah. Everybody does. That's as simple as the ministry gets. And not people you think can do the ministry. People that are already showing that. Morby's financing herself to get to Chicago. She's confident with the leadership. She came into our top leadership group. There was no insecurity. She was just one of us. Yeah. Totally and utterly one of us. Who is on your staff and are they the right people? That's what I was challenged at the conference. Who is in your young prophet and are they the right people? The future of the kingdom depends on us attracting, choosing and training the right people. If we fail, the kingdom fails and Satan wins. You know, we often say, well, I really believe in this person. That's irrelevant. What have they done?
Yeah. Come on.
What have they done? Okay, the whole world today is, I believe I'm a this. Okay, I saw this thing on a guy on a motorbike. I identify with being a cyclist. Can I enter the Tour de France? No, you can't. I don't care what you identify. I don't care if you believe in somebody. Show me their worth and what they have done. Or give them a task and see how they do it. Your feelings are irrelevant. They're irrelevant. We need to believe in everybody can do more. But when it comes to choosing excellent leadership, you've got to choose factually. What will be different today from your ministry? You know, it's never too late to change. I really love having Jeremy and Roz here. It is a real joy.
Yeah.
And we were in a D time yesterday, and we were trying to share with somebody about what it really means to be a disciple. So Jeremy has my hourly schedule. Okay? Every hour of every day. He comes and sits in on every appointment I have and sits there taking notes, and he's given up his job and his finances to do that. He's not allowed to sit in my time with Kerry, and occasionally there's 1 or 2 things he's not allowed to sit in. But he sits in everything else.
Come on, Jeremy.
Because he's learning.
Yeah.
He goes, I want to be your disciple. Some people I can't even get to bring me a study. There's a massive difference. Now, Jeremy is, I thought he was about 35, but he's a little bit older than that. He looks young, that's that. But I thought, this is a guy's when I figured it out. I sort of knew it earlier on in life, but now I really know it. I just don't want to do the business world anymore. I thought, now this guy is going to grow like a bullet, and is growing like a bullet. Because Jesus said, come follow me. Yeah. So Jeremy has said, come, I want to follow you. And that's what he's doing. That's what it takes to be trained.
Come on.
Those who self-sacrifice to please God. Choose those who self-sacrifice to please God. Excellent leaders have no problem with authority molding them. That's really important. You know, when you see somebody that goes to a club and they've come from another club and they're successful, they don't always succeed. Because they get a new manager and the manager has a certain style and they just refuse to get it. In my old club, this is the position I used to have. In my old club, okay, there's a very famous time when there was a soccer team in Spain. And it had some of the greatest people. So it had Figo, it had Beckham, and everything like this. But when Beckham was brought in, the position he normally plays was taken. And he's like, what am I? I'm Beckham. This is my position. He goes, well, you're going to have to play in this other position. I went, okay, I'll figure it out. There was no sort of, I can't believe this. You need to get rid of the other guy. He was privileged because he was playing with Roberto Carlos and Figo and all these greats. So even when you're great, you need to have humility and be molded.
Come on.
If you ever feel like you can't be molded, imagine us world sector leaders said, you know, Raul's new boss. No, I don't know. He's new. I don't know. I mean, Raul, come on. I'm me, you're you, and let's just be honest. You know what should happen? I should be taken out of that group, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
First thing I said to Raul is, you will never lead this movement until the people in that top leadership are the people you want. So if you want me to resign, I'm fine. Because the kingdom is more important to me than my position.
Oh, come on.
He went, no, it's right, I want you in the group. I went, shoo. Okay. Ex-leaders have no problem with authority molding them. Daniel 1 verse 6. Among those who were chosen were some from Judah. Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah. The chief official gave them new names. To Daniel, the name Belteshazzar. To Hananiah, Shadrach. To Mishael, Meshach. To Azariah, Abednego. These men had to be willing to give up their identity. They gave up their culture. You're no longer Tongan or Australian or Chinese. Their likes and dislikes. Well, that doesn't work for me. I don't like that. I don't, you ask me to song lead and I don't like song leading. Yeah, you're not an excellent leader. Their names. A name is a really personal thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's a name. If you call me Joey, I'm sorry, it ticks me. Like, you start calling me that, we're gonna, okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I'm sure if Kip would go, or whatever, if Raoul said Joey and he just kept on Joey. There was a lady that used to come to our house and would always call Kerry Kelly. She'd go, hey, Kelly. And I never got, it's Kerry. Kelly. And the end we just gave up. So, hi, it's Kelly. Like, in the end, what are you going to do? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
they gave up their foods and adopted a completely new set of values.
Well, come on.
As we are as world disciples. Luke 9:24. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will save it. Genuinely, I thought I was going to be in England for the rest of my life. I absolutely did. And Kerry said, when I get married, I will go where my husband goes. And she went, I surrender, Lord. No more Australia. No more NRL.
Oh.
And the Lord said to her, without my knowledge, that's okay, my daughter. Give me 10 years, I'll figure it out.
Let's go.
You cannot fill up a cup with anything unless it has been emptied.
Yeah.
That's true. Wow. That's true.
And if it's not emptied and completely scrubbed out, whatever goes in that is new will taint the old.
Yeah.
You cannot be an excellent all-world leader if you cannot relate to the people you want to lead. Whether I can and Kerry can relate to different cultures determines how many cultures we get into our church.
Amen.
It's one thing we pride ourselves on. Most people come and go, you know more about my country than me. Doesn't take a lot. They must be willing to crucify the cult of individuality. I did it my way. Or I'll do it my way. 2 Corinthians 4:5. For what we preached is not ourselves, but Jesus Christ as Lord, and ourselves as your servants for Jesus' sake. I appreciate all the move arounds. Dante said, I never want to go back to the islands. I remember him saying that. I was like, we all know there's a never say never board, right? God goes, all right, Dante needs to go to the islands at some point. I hear even Nixon was like, I don't know, these Cantonese people are like, okay, never say never, we'll go, we'll deal with that. Do you know what I mean? And, I'm sure Brian maybe said never back to Taiwan. Maybe he didn't. Maybe Billy did. I mean, who knows? But all I just know is where you hide your sin, God will rake for it.
Yeah.
Nowhere is this seen clearer than on a person's willingness to imitate. 1 Corinthians 4:16. Therefore I urge you to imitate me. For this reason I have sent you Timothy, my son, whom I love, who is faithful in the Lord and will remind you of my way and life of Christ Jesus, which agrees with what I teach in every church. Emmanuel and Aaron at the conference, Raoul just leaned over to me and went, they imitate you. They imitate you. I think Manny was short, sharp, called them to repentance, and said, don't make it about yourself. I went, he's yours. Aaron got up, not only did he have a standing ovation, but he said, I had daddy issues, and you've all got daddy issues. And it's not your disciples' fault. I went, okay, we took a few years to get there, but amen. It was like, people walking around like, I've got daddy issues, I've got daddy issues. But there's other ways they imitate me. I think I'm very good at gathering the strays around the kingdom. Yeah. Aaron has been brilliant and fun gathering the stray Chinese around the kingdom.
Come on.
He may even double his church this year by imitating that one great characteristic I have. Well, you know, it wasn't done before. It wasn't done before. Let me just roll this out. If Kerry and I were perfectly imitated in the next 10 years by our disciples, each church leader presently would have planted 8 more churches, taking us to 89 churches in 10 years, with the staff growing from 45 to 405. You go, whoa! You know, there's a desperate need for all top leaders to achieve far more than this. Because if you exponentiate that, you know how many disciples that goes to? That means in 10 years' time, our world sector would only have 2,592 disciples. And I'll be pretty ticked off if that's the only amount we have in 10 years' time. So that first one, you went, I don't know if I can do that. If you don't do much more than that, we have failed. We cannot choose people who blame others for their failures, who do not see the solutions around them in their trainers. Rather, we need to choose those who succeed, learn from successful people, and take instruction clearly without defensiveness. I would rather lead the church on my own, knowing that Kerry and I are wholehearted, than with people who don't. I'm very proud of Jordan Swan and his wife Alyssa. Now, we worked with them in India, and they weren't doing well, so we asked them to go back to America. They lead the same size church we do, and there's just the 2 of them.
Come on.
And it's growing at the same rate. What does that tell you? 2 people with a really fervent heart can do just as much as 12.
Wow.
It's about heart, not numbers.
Yes. Come on. True.
You know, excellent leadership embraces sacrifice over pleasure. This is a real key issue, I think, in today. Daniel 1:18. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. And he asked the chief officials for permission not to defile himself this way. Now God had caused the official to show favor and compassion to Daniel. But the official told Daniel, I'm afraid of my lord the king, who has assigned your food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other young men at your age? The king would then have my head because of you. Then Daniel said to the guard, whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. So he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables. So in order to remain righteous, they became vegetarians.
Come on, wow.
At least for 3 years. At least for 3 years. While Daniel was willing to lose his personal identity, he did not lose his spiritual identity.
Wow.
He was in the world, but did not become worldly. Like a ship in an ocean that stands out on the horizon, as opposed to a shipwreck that no one remembers. So obviously a ship is built to sail on top of the world. But if the water gets in it, it sinks and becomes a shipwreck. I looked up how many shipwrecks there's ever been in the world, just out of interest. He said no one really knows, but at least 3 million shipwrecks to date on the ocean's floor. Ships built not to sink. So why did ships built not to sink, sink? Well, why did Christians shipwreck their faith? Luke 8:14. The seed that fell among the thorns stands for those who hear, but as they go on their way, they are choked up by life's worries, riches, pleasures, and they don't mature. You want to know what takes people out of excellent leadership? Worry for your future. Because when you give up everything, there's nothing to fall back on as you get older. Riches, I need to focus on money. Pleasures, I want to feel happy from pleasure all the time. And then you don't mature. Maturity, spiritually, is the ability to live worry-free with no money and be happy in your relationship with God and need nothing else. That's it. That's what it means to be mature. That's what Jesus did. That's what all the apostles did. First thing you see in Daniel was that he was solution orientated when it comes to figuring out how to be spiritual. There was no victim mindset to his seemingly impossible situation. You're a refugee. You're a captive. People are making decisions on your life. No waiting to be rescued by another person. I'm going to sit in the corner and hope it will get better. He also had a deep conviction, hey, this is difficult, but I've got to figure out a way how to hold on to God's word. Daniel was excellent at problem solving. Think about it. He resolved to be spiritual. First of all, there was a definitive decision he made to be spiritual in an unspiritual environment. You know, I've got all this situation, but I am going to make a decision. Despite this, despite the peer pressure and the pressure from my boss, I am going to figure out how to be spiritual.
No.
He initiated with the source of the problem, his overseer, to change his mind. Excellent leaders engage problems, not run away from them.
Yeah.
He did it with tact, asking permission. There was no hint of a bad attitude or he was ticked off and, you know, if you don't do this, then I'm just going to fail and sit in a corner, and there was none of that. It took him persuading his overseer. He provided a solution which entailed him sacrificing, not his overseer. Nearly all success is rooted in personal sacrifice. Daniel had faith in God's word that if he ate what God said he could, he would be better off. So there was a bit like, you know what, if I don't eat this food, I mean, here's this wisdom of the world, you've got to eat this and this and this. Everybody else is being trained on it. If I go to the Bible and go, you know what, I can't eat that, and I can't even eat meat. But if I eat what I'm allowed and not go there, because Jews like meat, then I've got to trust that God will make me healthy. Daniel mastered the art of leading those who were put over him to lead him. Not surprising then that he was also good at leading those under him. So often we blame the people above us why we are not good at leading. One thing you learn very quickly if you want to be successful, you need to manage the people above you, below you, to the side. You cannot allow the man above you to lead you. A man above you guides you. But if you compromise your soul because of something your leader said, that is on you.
Yeah.
That is on you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what my leader, my disciple does, or my past leader does, I'm not going to be led into sin. That is not going to happen. My wife will not lead me into sin. The only one that's going to lead me into sin is me.
That's right.
And then I've got shepherds and disciples and everything to help me out with that. But I'm not going to let somebody else lead me into sin.
Yeah.
Leadership is defined by the art of getting others to follow you willingly. It is not defined by your title or the number of people on paper underneath you. Leadership is about your ability to influence and inspire others to get results. Leadership is about getting others around you to change and feel good about it in the long run. Spiritual leadership is about getting others to change for the glory of God and feel exhilarated towards God about doing it. That's what spiritual leadership is about.
Come on.
So demanding excellence in leadership. It is not wrong at any point in your life to review where you and your people are at. Having people in leadership that are not meant to be there will ultimately hurt them. Not bringing the people into leadership that should be will hurt them. Not admitting you don't have the leadership and so you should just be out there evangelizing instead of trying to beef up somebody that really doesn't want to do it. You need to be honest with yourself. Sometimes that's where life is at. You must demand excellence in leadership of yourself and others. We all need to choose who we train wisely. And then choose those who sacrifice self to please God. Excellent leaderships do not ask people to change. Excellent leaders don't suggest change. They demand it of themselves in every area of their life, and they demand it of others in the kingdom for the glory of God.
Come on.
These type of leaders are then given even more by God.
Yeah.
Daniel 1:17. To these 4 young men, God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning. And Daniel could understand visions and dreams and all kinds. If you choose the right people at the beginning, what they go on to do is amazing. If you choose the wrong people, they will never be amazing. Don't you want God to give you more? I do. To make a decision to become an excellent leader and choose those who want to be is what we need to do unsentimentality, ruthlessly, but also spiritually. If we are going to turn around the rest of this year, next year, and the next decade and far beyond. This is going to be your kingdom way far when Kerry and I are gone. And you can't look back and say Joe and Kerry didn't. You'll only have yourself to blame. So today can be a decision, like that decision when Jack sat in that corner. I said, if you don't figure out ICCM, you'll go back to driving a truck. A changing conversation for the rest of his life.
Come on.
Are you going to allow this lesson to change your life or just go over your head? Amen.
To hear more from Dr. Joe Willis, check out his 2 books on Amazon, The Art of Spiritual Warfare, Practicals for Becoming a Prayer Warrior, and Money is the Answer for Everything. Click the links in the description below. Also, for more life-changing lessons, subscribe to his YouTube channel, Dr. Joe Willis.